Hi foodies, we're gonna be sauteing here. We've got two foodies with me today. They don't necessarily wanna be on camera. But I am gonna have them do it, even though they're not gonna be on the actual camera. We're going to be sauteing today because we're talking about how do you saute without oil. So we've started out with some shallots and we're just gonna put them in the pan. And I've got my heat to about medium high, and we're gonna put just a tiny bit of veggie broth. We don't wanna steam it, we just want to get them started. Like if you had put a tiny bit of oil in here, that's what you want, not more than that. We're gonna let them sit for a second. When we start seeing that they start sticking, or we need more liquid, we're gonna hit them with a little bit more liquid. So it's already consuming pretty fast because I have it at medium high. I think I have it around 7. And my stove goes to 10, it's an electric. So I'm going to keep putting small drizzles of whatever liquid I choose to use, like veggie broth. I'm using a veggie broth that's no sodium here. Or water. I keep a cup of water next to the stove, or I'm going to use aquafaba. And you guys know that I keep my aquafaba in the fridge in little mason jars. And whenever I cook a batch of chickpeas, I drain the water and put it in a mason jar. Or I take the water from a can of chickpeas and I put it in a mason jar, and that can also be my oil. So we have 3 ways of using oil. We have vegetable broth, we have the aquafaba, and we have the water. So I try not to put things on the stove because you never know when an eye is on, but we're going here. So now these are do you smell them?
I do.
So they start smelling. So what you want is for them to start sticking a little bit. So you can start playing with your heat if you want to, but if you're gonna walk away from it, I would be careful. And then the minute it starts sticking, don't immediately hit it with water. Let it stick, and then see if you start seeing that caramelization happen. And you wait until they stick and they start getting a little hue of caramel color around them, and then you hit it with water. And then you just keep it. I wouldn't say it takes longer than using oil, but I would say you just have to, it's a different process, because a lot of people start with, a couple tablespoons of oil. They let the oil heat up, then they put all the vegetables and they're sauteing. It might take a little bit quicker with oil. This is about patience, and then just little drizzles here and there. It has the same effect of sauteing, and you're going to get, obviously, the oiliness of the vegetables you're not going to have because they're going to be clean, but they are going to have the same effect of, like, we could do a stir fry here versus a pasta. We're going to try and do Meghan Markle pasta, guys. I'm a little obsessed with her pastas. You know that I saw her do the one pot, and I'm never doing pot. So I'm never boiling it separately. I'm going to always do it in one pot. So you see here it's sticking. So now, and some of them might even get a little, you'll see little bits getting a little crunchy. That's okay. What you don't want is for any of them to burn. So you don't want any of your vegetables or pieces to have burn on them, because if not, what you're gonna get is a burnt tasting sauce. So you could even switch to water. Sometimes I run out of vegetable broth. I only have half a container of vegetable broth right now. So if I were making a giant portion here, I make sure that I have water or the aquafaba. Luckily, I still have some vegetable broth, so I'm just going to hit it with a tiny bit. Don't be tempted to use a ton, you see? So don't be tempted to use a ton, because if you use a ton, you're gonna end up with steamed vegetables. You're not going to saute. So what you want to do is stir it around, and we see that it's getting more caramel on the bottom. You want to try and do it, Anne-Marie? You won't mess it up.
That's okay.
They will only see your hands. You don't have to be on camera. Okay, and then when you feel like you need a little bit more, just do drizzles. And then you basically just keep going until you feel like it's the saute level that you like. So if, for example, that was...
See how that's
Yep,
sticking?
yep, and now that that's sticking, I would add a tiny bit of water there, and I would use the spatula to kind of scrape that off.
Okay.
Yep. And this is, once you're already getting that caramelization and the saute going, if you were to hit it with too much water, it's not the end of the world because you built up the flavor.
Sure, okay.
So right now I hit it with a lot more veggie juice than what I had been doing.
Right.
So in order to get back to where sauteing, you let it consume again. But you prevented that sticky part from burning.
Sure.
And from changing the flavor.
Okay.
So the minute it consumes again and starts sticking to the pot, you want to do the same thing and then kind of like scrape it off with your spatula or your spoon or whatever. I have my non-stick pots here because you want to be using non-stick pots. And then if you want a crunchier, for example, I've taken these shallots and I've taken them to caramelized shallots. Where I cook them and sometimes I make a giant batch of shallots.
Okay, this is starting to stick.
Yep, and then here.
So you never tilt your pan?
No, sometimes, but not really.
Okay.
Not really. And then if you see that like those bits are sticking, then I would even hit it. That's why I keep all this liquid here. Because I actually sometimes go through way more liquid than what I think I'm going to go through.
I'm glad I'm seeing this because at home I added more oil.
Yep.
Or debated
And
about
you're
it. And I
adding
don't want to add
saturated fat, and you're adding a lot of calories, no satiation, no added nutrition, and you're just adding to the clogged arteries.
Sure.
And it's causing inflammation, it's causing other things. So instead of adding the oil, add the liquids and more vegetables.
Okay.
Yeah. So you just keep going until you tell me that you like it, because we're gonna make this pasta and you're gonna end up taking it home. We're gonna put all the things that you like in it.
Well, how do you know when to stop?
Whenever you think you like it. You could try that shallot, or if you think that's the way they look.
I think this is good, yeah.
Okay. So then let's hit it with a tiny bit of water and scrape off all the stickies. And this is when, what did I do with my knife? I always misplace stuff. Okay. So we've got two foodies with us today. They dropped over and we had some silken soy extra firm made puddings. And we tried the banana ones. Dee tried the banana one, and Anne-Marie tried the banana cacao one and the banana cacao peanut butter, right?
Yes.
And your favorite was the banana cacao?
Yes.
And Dee makes them at home. She makes different flavors at home already, so she already knows how to make them. So you like tomatoes, right?
Yeah,
I'm just like sitting here.
Yes.
Okay, so you can keep it, same thing. So we can choose to saute these tomatoes down a little bit, or we could start the process of our pasta without sauteing them down. I would saute them down a little bit.
Yeah, in the pasta.
And then I would switch to, you know what, Dee?
I've never made a pasta in the pan.
Oh, it's so easy. That's why I'm telling you that hungry root.
It's one
You
less
can be
pan.
your own hungry root.
Right.
We're gonna get another full cup of water, and we're gonna put it right next to the stove.
Good thing you have a sous chef over there.
Yep. Jay's usually my sous chef. Now we could use a tomato sauce, guys, to make this at the end. We might add some of this tomato sauce and make it a red sauce tomato pasta. But we're not necessarily gonna cook it with a one-pot lid with the tomato sauce. So you just keep adding it until we feel like those tomatoes are cooked. I would hit it with a little bit more water so that doesn't turn to burn. And you can also control your heat. so we can
Sure.
turn down the heat a little bit. So would you want the cruciferous veggies in your pasta is the question.
Well, I love cruciferous
Okay.
vegetables.
All
I've
right.
had them in pasta, but I'd love to try it.
Okay.
What the heck?
All right, so then the choices are, if you like crunch in your cruciferous veggies, we can leave this to incorporate at the end, or we can add some as we're in the cooking process, which means that they're gonna cook down some and become wilted. There's so many ways about this. Once you make the pasta, you can have yourself a warm bowl of pasta, but then you can also put this in the fridge, and tomorrow you're gonna have a cold salad pasta that you
yum.
can add things to.
Okay.
So you could add olives to it. You could add fresh tomatoes to it. You could add water chestnuts to add. So it's a different meal.
Yeah.
Okay, completely different meal. So hopefully we'll get at least 2 portions. You can like try one warm portion, and then you can doctor. That's one of the things that I love about plant-based. You can doctor it.
Okay.
So you're gonna change it from the warm pasta
I'm
to
excited.
yeah, to a cold pasta.
Uh-huh.
So and you can choose whatever vegetables
Okay,
you
these
want.
are starting to cook down a little.
Okay, so this is my favorite thing is air cutting things, because I will take the lazy route any day. And then I'm just gonna cook, we're gonna cook these down a little tiny bit, and then we're gonna start with the one pot method. I would put a tiny bit more liquid. We just wanna make sure that we don't get to where it ever burns. So, but you see that it acts just like if you're sauteing.
That was more than what I wanted.
That's okay. Okay, so what we can do is wilt some spinach into it.
Oh, I
So
love spinach.
go ahead and stir it to get some
And
of
with the
that
pasta.
water.
Anna, when do you put any seasonings?
So I'm gonna do that right now. So I'm gonna hand you some seasonings, and do you like garlic powder?
Love garlic.
Okay, so go
Anything.
ahead and season. And I'm never afraid of it as long as I am using stuff that doesn't have sodium in it.
Right. Now, my husband has granulated garlic. Have
You
you?
can do whatever you want.
Okay.
Does that have salt?
I don't know. That's what I was wondering.
So go ahead and be careful because they're completely open, so they'll
Okay.
pour out. So
What's the
choose.
garlic and herb
This
one?
one's garlic and herbs, salt free. It's just got a bunch of herbs in it.
All right.
And then we've
Some
got
of that.
minced
Can I turn
onion.
this down a little?
Yep.
Let's try some of that. Okay.
Oh, you are shy.
Oh,
You
Measure-
want to hit
measure
it
with
with
your
a
heart.
lot of flavor because
Okay.
we're not using sodium.
Oh, it smells great. Smell the
So
oregano.
you just keep adding what you like. I'm going to give you my favorite one. This I brought from France, which is shallots.
La la.
Dried. Do you like shallots?
Yes.
So I cover the entire top of what I'm cooking.
Okay.
And then I keep adding and building. So I think I have some Italian seasoning herbs here that you can put on top since we're making it red sauce. So I would do that.
Oh,
That's Italian herb seasoning, and then there's garlic and there's
I
minced
got the
onion.
garlic.
Okay.
I got the minced onion.
Okay, and remember, it's not going to have sodium, but at the end, the toppings
Yeah,
can
that's
make it flavorful.
I
Okay,
think we need to turn it down again. What do you
no,
think?
because we're about to put pasta in.
Okay.
Okay, so actually, let me give you a little nooch. So I would do a little scoop of nooch. Remember that this is going to add sodium, but it's also going to help thicken it. It's going to umami it.
Whole thing?
Yep. And we're probably gonna add some after. All right, so let's mix all that in. If you need to put a little bit more liquid, you can choose the veggie broth too. Just make sure these don't melt on the hot stove. Not too much. Okay, just get it all mixed in for the nooch. And then
Oh,
we're
it
gonna
smells good.
put some pasta. So this pasta says, let's see, 7 to 10 minutes. So what I love about the one pot method is there's no measuring. So,
I like that.
all right. So the only trick to the one pot method is now flatten it. Now we're not sauteing anymore. Now you're gonna cook your pasta. So now flatten it
Okay.
and then barely cover it completely with liquid. So you can either use veggie broth or we can use a combination of,
Okay.
put a little bit more veggie broth. That's it.
Okay.
And then what we're gonna do
Or we
is,
could have used tomato sauce.
I wouldn't because it would thicken it too much. Let's put the
Okay.
lid on it. So the tomato sauce, we're probably gonna do at the end.
Okay.
So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna have it go 7 to 10 minutes, but you don't just like let it go and go do something.
Right.
The one pot, you have to keep checking.
Right.
So I'm gonna set a timer for, let's say 7 minutes, and then we're going to start it off because the box says 7 to 10 minutes. Some of these Whole Foods pastas, when you're cooking them, you want to make sure and follow the box recipe because some of them will turn to mush because it is not made with enriched flours and they will turn to mush depending on what they're made from. Some of them are firmer pastas, and in this one pot, you might need more than the 7 to 10 minutes. So you're gonna be stirring, you're gonna be checking to see if you need to add liquid. And at a certain point, when you see that the pastas have potentially cooked, you taste one,
Sure.
and if it's the al dente that you want,
Right.
then you're done.
Okay.
Even if it were to be too liquidy, when you're done, that liquid can then be turned into sauce, because then we can use things to thicken it. Yeah, and thickeners that I like that add nutrition are going to be nooch.
Okay.
Nutritional yeast. You could add things like flax meal, but flax meal I feel like sometimes can be gritty.
Okay.
So I wouldn't do that. I would stick to the nutritional yeast.
Okay.
If you didn't want too much nutritional yeast because you don't want too much of that umami flavor, you could do a little bit of cornstarch,
Okay.
you know, to
Yeah.
thicken it.
Sure, I would say that.
Yeah. And I wouldn't do flours or anything like
No,
that.
I don't do that.
Yeah. And if you did
I
flours,
think I have arrowroot.
yeah. Yeah, so I would just mix a little bit of cornstarch with water on the side, and then
Okay.
if it were to need it, then you do it. Jay knows that when I'm thickening something, he's usually the cornstarch guy, and he gets like a tablespoon of cornstarch, puts it off to the side, and he knows that I'm gonna mix it with a little bit of water if we need to. So we will be back when it's ready, guys. So our pasta is done. So we just tested it, and you just test it because our whole food pastas sometimes are a little bit firmer, so you just have to find the al dente that you got. We kept hitting it with water and veggie broth so that it didn't consume, so that we had enough time to cook the pasta, but now we have a creamy sauce. So now we're gonna finish it off. So I'm gonna take it off of here, and then we're going to put more nooch on it. Nooch-alicious. This one's the sorry one from Amazon. And then we're going to, remember that with every single meal, we're going to add some sort of protein. So we could add a silken tofu to this. Let's show them the silken tofu, the little box that I gave you. So we could take the Morinu extra firm silken and make a very creamy sauce, and you just never know that your protein was added in here as the sauce. So we're going to do, we could do this Morinu extra firm silken tofu. We could take this out of here. We could hand blend it in a different little bowl, add it to this, and we're gonna end up with a super creamy, delicious sauce. You could take another type of tofu that's not silken, you could cube it and add it to here, but we are going to add, don't forget this one's yours to take, we're going to add some chickpeas. So I'm going to add, you want to have about half a cup always of chickpeas or some type of bean, between a half a cup to a 3/4 cup of a serving. So I put about a cup of chickpeas in here. We're just gonna stir them up to be warm. And then you could tomorrow put black olives in here. Now, black olives are gonna have sodium from the can, so I would just rinse it because it's not possible to get olives without sodium because that's how they're cured. So that's why we're not adding any sodium, because those things would add some sodium. I would rinse them, I would add olives. If you like olives, you
How
can
do you
add.
feel about calamari olives?
Love Kalamata olives, and this would go great with it. So we've got a cruciferous, but you guys know this is my cheat sheet. So I keep these bags in the fridge. I throw away the dressing that comes with it, and we're just gonna put these in here. And you might not want to eat this pasta immediately if you don't want those veggies to still be crunchy, but if you like your crunchy veggie, then go ahead and eat it immediately, or let it sit for a second to let them wilt down. But this way it's not completely consumed, and we didn't put them in the cooking process so that they didn't become too mushy. So we can also add some snow peas. My sister got some snow peas the other day at her farmer's market in France. And I was so jealous, but I think I was more jealous that she's in France shopping at one of her markets.
We're all jealous.
Yes. So when I saw them at my market here in Florida, I went ahead and got them. So we can add some of those. You can add some green onions on top if you like green onions. If you have a jar of caramelized shallots, you could add some of that into here or on top to top it. If you can also add one of the California balsamics on top, you guys want to try. You can add some raw spinach, even though we cooked them down. We're gonna add. See how much quantity it's turning into now. Yeah. So now it's gonna turn into even a bigger portion. So you can freeze some of this. You can, have. This would be 4 servings.
I've only used balsamics in salads, so you use them.
Oh gosh, I use it for everything. The California balsamics and the Al Zaytun brands. Dee, if you want to show them on the camera, we can remind them. Everybody that follows me knows how much I love my California balsamics. So you are going to use those for dessert, for snacks, for lunches, for savory, for sweet. You can use it on top of your soy yogurt in the morning. You can use it on top of your nice ice cream. Any which way you want to use them. You could top your pasta with one of the flavors that you might like. There's a basil flavor that might go good with this. There's if you want to spice up your pasta and make it spicy, use the sweet heat or the habanero. If this had been a pad thai like we made the other day, the pad thai would be, we could use the jalapeno or the habanero heat or something like that.
Yeah.
So let's get the little bowl and have you try a little bit of it.
This one?
Yep, or 2,
This
if you
one?
guys
Do
both
you
want
wanna
to
try
try
it?
it.
Sure.
So you could let it sit here with a little bit more heat and wilt down the spinach. I don't love my vegetables to become too mushy, so that's why I like to add vegetables so that they are not so mushy at the end. And then,
thank you.
There you go, guys. So
it's beautiful.
And this took what? Maybe like, did the other, maybe like 15, it cooked a little bit longer. So maybe total 15 minutes.
Thank you.
So, and you can put any one of the California balsamics on top. So they are saying, I'm gonna move the camera up, but I won't show you guys since you guys don't want to be on camera. So we've got our California balsamics. So they could choose one of these to put it on the, let me show the little bowl, to put it on the pasta. Which one are you choosing? Garden dill, and then we've got Anne-Marie's, and then there's a jalapeno lime, but there's all sorts of flavors. I think one of the basils or one of the garden dill. The garden dill has mustard in it, so I'm not sure if you like the mustard, but
There was a basil. There was that.
yeah, there's a basil one. There's look at all. There's a Gilroy garlic. This one's pretty pungent. So don't be afraid to use this for all meals, not just lunch or dinner. Yeah, you can use them for savory or sweet. Okay, guys, I'm gonna leave you. Bye, foodies. Have a happy day.
Good.